Hello and welcome to Women's Lax World Season 1, Episode 5. Happy High Five episode, Bryce. We have Bryce
Yo,
Queener here. Welcome. And we have me, myself, Sylvia Queener here. So both coaches Queener coming to you live from our Zoom setups from California and Colorado. And we're just going to go right into it. We have a lot of updates, a lot from me, a lot of stats, and we're going right in with the ACC. So I'm going to update from last Friday, March 19th to Thursday, March 25th with some ACC scores. So we had Notre Dame win over Liberty 19-5. For the first doubleheader of Duke, Virginia, Duke had a dominant win over Virginia 17-8. Boston College 19, Hofstra 7. Jacksonville 10, Virginia Tech 9. And then the Cavaliers clapped back and took the split with Virginia 14, Duke 11. We had Notre Dame 15, Louisville 10. UNC 15, James Madison 5. And then Virginia Tech with the big win 19, Radford 5. And I'm just going to start right off and say, heck to the yes for the split. I have been waiting for a doubleheader split. I was hoping for Big Ten, and we got one of those as well. And we finally got a split. I love to see it. I love to watch it. Bryce, any of those scores stick out to you, or any thoughts just on ACC in the last week?
well, I would echo what you said. The splits are exciting because we've been following the Big Ten a lot of sweeps, and I just kind of not felt bad, but just kind of it's got to be tough for a team to lose two in a weekend to the same team, and we've never done this. So the Duke UVA split to me is very intriguing, just because both those teams I've seen bits and pieces of, and every time I've watched them, they've been very impressive. So, but the splits in general, I think just makes it for a more exciting run down the stretch. Because if that pattern held of everybody what we saw playing was either going 2-0 or 2, it's just not as exciting for anybody involved. And so I like that a lot. I think that was definitely the takeaway for me, as you pointed out.
Yeah, and I want to point out I watched a lot of those games, and I've obviously been watching a ton of lacrosse, and a lot of the scores. Obviously, there's been OT games, there's been a ton of those. There's been close games, there's been upsets, so that's huge. There's also just been a lot of disparity in scores, and I will say this: it's not noticeable when you're watching. Like for example, it's like you have UNC almost beating every opponent by 10 or more, but every single game I've watched has been thrilling because each team has had fast breaks. They've had moments, they've had athleticism, creative opportunities. Again, when BC was playing UMass, it wasn't a tight score. It was a 19-7 finish or something like that. But you had Olivia Masella doing her Twizzler that then she did later in an OT win. You're just seeing so much good lacrosse that while those scores might not necessarily indicate that if you're looking in from the outside, but when you're a fan and advocate and watching, it's been awesome all across the board.
One thing I'll add on that, obviously you're brilliant and correct on everything you just said, but is well, we said earlier the trend was in the beginning of the season 2-0 or 0-2. Well, these teams are playing twice. And one thing I think I've heard a lot of people around the country talking about is this programs peaking at different times this year, especially. You've always talked about it as a player, as a coach. You want to peak at the right time. And we've talked about it a lot, Sylvia, with teams that we've coached have gone to the NCAA tournament. It's not that easy to peak in April, especially for if you got a lot of first years on your team and they're home away from home for the first time in college, and they're tired by April. So, but this year, depending on what region you were in the country and what the COVID rules were in your state and your school, you might not have played as much in the fall. So then you don't have as much burnout, but you're not as crisp earlier in the season. So all those things, I mean, you could chart them all and it would look like beautiful mind, but you wouldn't. I don't know what you'd come up with other than you got a good team or not at the end of the day. But other teams are going to peak at different times, so I think that's going to be interesting all season too.
Yeah, 100%. It's really fun too. I think too the timing of the season and depending on COVID protocol or having to take time off and coming back, and you're having yeah, a lot of adversity and a lot of firsts this year, and you have just a lot of disparity also in games played. some teams playing 8-9 games, you have some teams playing 2 or 3, and it's really fun. So I think that may be for some of kind of those scores, but it's not taking away from the grit, the power, the impressive athleticism, the creativity, the finesse, the sharp skill, and the overall fun and just palpable passion that's out there. And then, really looking forward to seeing it unfold, and again, seeing everyone peak at different times and, keep climbing that peak. So right into Big Ten. And in the past, we've talked a lot about individual players, and we've talked about a lot of, players in the ACC, and we haven't done a ton of stats for the Big Ten. So I really just wrote up a bunch of notable performances and standout stats after the scores. So we had 3 doubleheader matchups for Big Ten this last weekend. So we had Maryland swept Ohio State 14-9 and then 11-5. Northwestern super swept Rutgers 22-10 and then 21-7. And then we got another split. So first game, Michigan won over Penn State 12-9. And then in the second game, Penn State beat Michigan in an amazing 13-12 overtime game. So I'm going to jump in right now and just give some notable performances and standout stats from that epic weekend of lacrosse. Again, we had 2 sweeps, but we had a split. And again, love the split. So the Skane train, Izzy Skane, my gosh, 10 goals in the first game, 5 goals, 3 apples in the second game. And not only did these impressive stats earn Izzy Big Ten Offensive Player of the Week for the 3rd time this season, it also got her in the program record book. So she surpassed the previous single game goals record set all the way back in 1982, which was 9 goals in a game. And so 9 goals, just a fun fact, was matched multiple times in a game by Selena Lesotho. And finally, Izzy Skane is just making her mark on that program, and a freaking impressive program at that. So, that's just an impressive performance for the Northwestern star. So then Lauren Gilbert from Northwestern got 5 goals in the first game, 4 in the second. Brennan Dwyer of Northwestern with 11 draw controls in the second game. And then going into Maryland, Lizzie Colson of Maryland with 16 draw controls, 6 caused turnovers, 9 ground balls over the 2 games versus Ohio State, which earned her Big Ten Co-Defensive Player of the Week. And then Hannah Lubecker, if you've been paying attention, her name is out there. She got 12 goals and 1 assist on the weekend. And Grace Griffin, stud midfielder, 5 goals, 6 assists, 4 ground balls on the weekend, which earned her Big Ten Midfielder of the Week. So both goalies in the Maryland-Ohio State matchup really stepped up big and honestly drastically improved their save percentage from the first game to the second. Julian Rizzo of Ohio State got 15 saves, and Emily Sterling of Maryland had 12 saves. So again, the goalies are crushing it this year. Going into Michigan, Molly Garrett, 9 goals, 6 ground balls, including the goal that forced the second game into overtime. Ariel Weissman getting all the right angles in net for Michigan. She had an impressive 14 saves, 9 goals against in the first game between Michigan and Penn State, and then followed with another 14 saves in the second game. That is 28 saves on the weekend for Ariel. That earned her a Big Ten Co-Defensive Player of the Week. 28 saves. I mean, whew. Then we had Olivia Dirks for Penn State, 4 goals, 2 assists, 11 draw controls, 3 ground balls, 3 caused turnovers on the weekend, and Maria Off with the game winner in overtime and a total 7 goals and 3 assists on the weekend against Michigan. I mean, that's a ton of stats, threw a lot at you. The one that I was really excited about, and I've been tweeting it, I'll say it again, 2021 is the year of the goalies. 2019 was the year, it's the year of the goalies, plural. Because we had 2019, obviously, getting the first goalie, the Tewaaraton. And now
I follow you on Twitter, obviously, and I've seen you tweet this a lot this year. I've reposted on the Instagram, follow us on both. We're all over it. But it's impressive. The Tewaaraton win was huge in and of itself. And now I think you're spot on. There's so many better goalies than I think I've ever seen in a given year. But as you're saying that about the goalies and their save percentage getting better in the second game, I'm sure that I know they're watching so much film from their coaches on the shooters already. But then after seeing them live, there's got to be something to that, because we see it in practice. Goalies that know they see you every day, Sylvia, but they're never probably gonna steal all your shots, but they'll know one or two that you might do on a certain angle or something. So that's got to play into it. Bucket sets are, I know one I wanted to point out that saw earlier is Izzy Skane and Gilbert they're both in the top 3 in the country. I think Izzy Skane's number 1, and then it's Gilbert, right?
Yeah, Lauren Gilbert.
Lauren Gilbert. She's number 3, I believe, is what I read. I know it's top 5, but if you go back to last year, they were scoring like 20 plus every game. Like I remember jumping on their film and trying to, like, what are they doing? And they got some unbelievable talents, and they run some cool stuff. So that's impressive. And then I'm not shocked they blew out Rutgers twice, but we've said before, we've been real impressed by what Rutgers is doing. So I think in 1 or 2 years, it's going to be really interesting to see Rutgers close that gap. Like, how quick is it? Is it 1 year? Is it 2 years? Is it 3? I guess 1.5 for me. And then the split, like you said, great. That's a great classic college rivalry, and we're fans of the split right now. As long as we're not coaching in the game, we like that for the competition and all the things that come with it. So Big Ten's heating up, getting real exciting.
Big Ten is heating up, and we talked about this, I think, in our first episode. And you asked me, Maryland lost to Penn State. Was that the end? And
Yeah.
I said, I think it's going to fuel them. And since then, they have been undefeated, and I think they are building and building and building. And I think that, just like you thought too, they were coming back hot.
Can I just I asked that question for like the show. That's not my, Maryland.
That is a good pointed question for a podcast and for our followers.
For fun, yeah, just for some conversation. But I never once, obviously, we kid, but we'll always pick New York as the best lac state, but women's lacrosse, Maryland's definitely number 2 if we're going with New York 1 and maybe 1, but so they're always going to be great. But that was a funny question to ask you.
It was a funny question, and I think we agreed too. No, like they're always going to be good. I just think that program has such great sustainability in their talent, in their coaching staff, the way they're able to really just create opportunities for their personnel, and they always have such a team mindset. I think it's so impressive year after year after year, and to see those numbers and the stats
and I kind of love year. Their gear's sick, and I kind of love the flag now. Like, I used to chirp it, but I kind of think it's dope.
The flag is amazing.
It's the yellow,
yeah,
it's nice. It's real nice on their stick. It looks real cool. And they care about lacrosse, so yeah, they're going to be top team forever. So fun. Who are their matchups next weekend? Did you see that, or should I look it up?
So again, I believe, one of the games I'm really excited about is Northwestern's matching up with Maryland. So I'm really excited to see how that plays out.
Okay. Yeah. Wow.
Excited to see how that plays out. I think that's going to be awesome. I don't know. I didn't write that down.
I got it. Evanston. It's at Northwestern. Okay.
It's at the lake. It's at the lake show.
Yeah. Up there. Beautiful facility.
Oh, most beautiful facility now in the country.
Yeah.
I would like to play in that field house every day. And
yeah, but I still wouldn't want to walk outside the rest of the day, so there's that. I'd still rather be somewhere warmer. It is unbelievable though.
Just beautiful. And yeah, what a year for them. And again, to consistently score 20 plus goals and just constantly play and be so relentless.
Are you going to make a prediction on next weekend's Maryland Northwestern matchup?
I don't love to make predictions. Do you have a prediction?
No, I don't know. It's going to be a good game. So.
Yeah. You know what? My initial reaction is Northwestern's going to sweep, but I really want to split. So I'm just hoping for a split.
Yeah. They're definitely favored, right? So.
Yeah. But I'm gonna have a lot of fun with that one, and then jumping right into just some upsets, and then another D1 game. So we had Arizona State beating USC 20-9. It is their first victory over a top 20 ranked opponent in program history, and that is a dominant win. And I think for ASU it really was a team effort. And there was some impressive individual stats as well. Kerry Clayton led offensively with 6 goals and 5 assists. Just in case math isn't your specialty, that's 11 points. And then we had, and she also had 3 ground balls. You got it. Those matter. And then Emily Glagalev had 4 goals and 3 assists. And for USC, Kelsey Huff had a hat trick. And obviously, my thought is, I think USC obviously had COVID protocol, some challenges, but it was a really dominant and awesome ASU team win. Did you have thoughts on that game and anything about that?
Yeah, I was shocked, right? Like initially I was shocked. I saw the Twitter score, and then I wasn't shocked because I coached against Arizona State this year, and we played them last year in fall ball, and they play this different style. They have a really good goalie that plays on the defensive end. So their goalie's athletic, but their offensive end, they're doing a lot of 2-man game like a lot of people are doing, but they're doing double picks on ball instead of just single picks all the time. And they have like cute little plays out of those where like those two, like one of the pickers will slip and they'll go behind the back to them and like not, and you can tell when they do it that they practiced it a lot. Cause it's not like, oh, she just decided to just throw it behind the back. And so you see a couple of times, you're like, well, maybe they're not that great. And then you start to remember how hard it is to do that, to throw BTB just casually on someone's stick. And so they do some really neat stuff offensively. They got great sticks. But I was definitely shocked. That's why they called it an upset. But kudos to them and their coaching staff and their team, because that's a big win. That's a big win out west. And kind of like our theme earlier with the splits, it's just great to see, when you're not in the game, it's great to see other teams win and new programs rise and people do new things.
Yeah, spreading that wealth, spreading that energy. In some ways that's the selfless part of it, and that is essential for our game to grow, to get more exposure, and to get more exciting. And it's happening. And it started happening, the last couple of years, and it's been awesome this season. Yeah, the next one, Jacksonville again striking hot. They win an OT over Virginia Tech, 10-9. So, Virginia Tech was winning 4-0. And, the end of the game, Sarah Elms for Jacksonville scored the OT winner. So she had a total of 3 goals, and they were the final 3 goals for Jacksonville. So I really enjoyed that. Her first goal tied the game at 8. Her second gave Jacksonville the first lead of the game for 9-8. And her final goal was the OT winner. And then other notable stats for Jacksonville was Jenny Kinsey. She had 4 goals, 2 assists. And again, a goalie, Dana Martinetto, played in the second half and the OT, and she had 8 saves and only 3 goals against. And then for Virginia Tech, Paige Petty led with 8 draw controls, 4 goals, 2 caused turnovers, and Angie Benchin had 12 saves. So I thought it was a great game. Again, it's like Virginia Tech has had a lot of challenges this year, and I think Jacksonville is a really good team. So again, just great for the sport. What are your thoughts on that game?
Hot take, not an upset.
That was
my first. That was my first thought. I'm like, didn't you just beat Florida, right? They beat Florida the week before, and Florida was probably ranked top 10, I assume, at the time. And I was just like, when I first saw it on Twitter, I was like, hey, I kind of expect Jacksonville to win, but definitely, still yearly, they haven't done that, beat power programs like that. So it's an upset technically, but that was my first thought, which just kind of goes to show you how far they've come. And like you said, big players making some big plays, scoring big OT goals. But that was my first thought. Kind of like, you just beat a really good team. You must be pretty good.
Right, so, pretty good. And I think that goes to show it's going to take them time from the outside and from voters to get a little bit more respect. Yeah. Where, they're not in the ACC, they're not in the Big Ten, they're not in, maybe a power and as challenging of a conference, even though I think all these conferences are so talented. But again, it's like Virginia Tech has really built and clawed and earned a lot of respect, for being that team that relentless and really hustles and gets some big wins the last couple of years. And so I think Jacksonville's doing that. And that was a statement game for them too. Like, no, we are consistent. Wasn't a fluke. We're here.
A huge win for their program. And like you said, to get that next level. Keep winning those games. Not a fluke. We're
Yep.
here, and they've been in the tournament for a while, so it's neat
Right.
to. It's neat, like we were just saying with Arizona State. It's just really great to see new programs be able to take that leap.
Yep. And it's, again, it's great strategy and it's smart, for these coaches to be scheduling, out of conference and making sure they win those games and making sure they're stepping up. And so they garner that recognition and then they're a consistent powerhouse. And right in the last one, I just want to mention, Stanford, I think it was their third game or fourth game, I think third game of the season. They won in overtime over CU Boulder 10-9. So Michaela Watson led with 3 goals and had the game winning goal and drive. We saw it on social media. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Mackenzie Chapman had 6 draw controls. And for CU Boulder, Charlie Rudy led with a hat trick, while Julia Lazella made an impressive 16 saves, 10 goals against. So that's an impressive stat. Again, I think their goalie's great. She has great angles. She steps out at the right time. And again, just to really harp it in, I'm so impressed with the goalies in every level, D1, D2, D3. I mean, it's the best I've seen it. I'm loving it. Any thoughts on that game? Were you surprised with the score? Anything like that?
I think what you said right off the bat, it was Stanford's third game, so that made me kind of be like, like we mentioned on the show throughout, that's going to be a challenge for teams if you played less. And so I didn't watch a lot of it, and I just wasn't surprised to see Watson, is her last name right? Is it,
Yeah.
get the game winner. I've seen her play a lot. I saw her play probably from her freshman year on because I was at Fresno State when she was a freshman, I think, or sophomore. But I've seen the kid play. She's really good. So I was kind of like, so that's always cool to watch a player play for a while and see them score a game winner. And the Pac-12 is going to be interesting with all we talked about with Arizona State and USC and they're getting to play now just against themselves pretty much, right? So they'll just be playing Pac-12. So I thought it was an interesting weekend but what did you think about that game?
Awesome. And I mean, I thought it was really competitive. I think, CU Boulder's gotten better and better. And I think they have a lot of different players. Charlie Rudy's been really consistent offensively for them this season. I love their goalie too. I think she's played pretty consistently as well. But
Yeah.
I just think I root for Stanford a little bit more, and I definitely root for California schools a little bit more, just living in California. So, and I
can
love
see
Danielle
that.
Spencer. So I was really happy with that, and I was thrilled to just again have an overtime game. And I think it's great for exposure on social media as well. You have those big time plays, and it spreads
We've
like
talked about
like
that too.
fire.
Like the big ones, obviously, they tend to get put on social media, but those are cool to watch. Game winners and OT are cool to watch on Twitter.
Yeah.
Great way to just feel like you're almost there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then I think, for this week, Lax talk about it. And, something I wanted to talk about, and I tweeted it right before we hopped on here, is the stick drop. And I've seen on social media, and there's not that much talk against it, but there are some prominent people, and I would say more men than women that I've seen that just don't like it or don't understand it or think it's just odd. And I said, if you don't love the stick drop in women's lax, you're missing out on a lot of joy, personal flair, and emotional expression. And I think the initial intention for the drop after the goal was to make sure players weren't messing with their shooting strings, because we saw it on live TV. I think it was Kayla Trainer and other players pulling at their stick strings and making sure that stick was legal. And something I like about it even more is it started in such like kind of a mundane technical way, and it's turned into this tantalizing trend that I'm obsessed
Yeah.
with. I think also from an outsider's perspective, like it might get someone who's never watched lacrosse or women's lacrosse to just be like, why are they doing that? Like, that's kind of fun. Or like, for example, the dean of students at Whittier College, Bruce Smith, we're in a bias team meeting and he asked me about, hey Q, can you just like, why are they dropping their stick like that? And he loved it. He was like, it's so cool that they get to do that. And I think if you watch football, and I get annoyed with the excessive, celebration penalty. These athletes work so hard and it's kind of turned into the celebratory moment and it's really fun and everyone has their own flair. It is so freaking fun, and I don't want it to go. I don't want it to go.
Yeah, it's one of those unintended amazing things that just no intention for this to turn out to be a celebration and a way for an athlete to really express themselves, and it's amazing. The way I explain it to people, normally I get asked why, and then I'm like, so this is what, like, the sticks weren't legal and they need to check it, and then but I really immediately go into like, but the thing about it is it's awesome because they slam the stick, and then people do different slams, and then we have a player in practice that just does like, she does a funny slam, now she does a good celebration with her stick on assist. So it's amazing. It's a really, I agree. It can't go away. It's such a cool part of the game to let you express yourself and celebrate. And you don't get too many of those, right? Most of the time you're having to run around and be pretty kind of serious during the game. And then you get that one moment to really celebrate, stop, high five people, jump around. So I love the stick drop. And most times after I explain that to people that ask me, like, why is that happening? They're like, oh, that's cool. Yeah. So.
And then someone else commented too, and I often wonder this and wonder if it's going to evolve. Do you think it's essential for us to have all the pregame protocol with selecting players to measure their sticks, checking everyone's stick, whether it's legal, plus checking the stick after a goal is scored? Do you think it's too much? How do you think that's going to change? How would you like it to change, or keep it the same?
Initially, I kind of, as you talked about this with me before, thought, yeah, maybe we should check less, but it's a big deal if your pocket is way bigger, and it's not that hard for it to happen. So, to be way bigger it is. To be illegal, it's not that hard for it to happen. So that's in and of itself something I would change. It's like, it's just too quick. It's too small of a gap between legal and illegal, in my opinion. Still, like, it's a very fine line. It's very, like, I have one or two a year that I look at it after, and I'm like, I wouldn't have called that illegal, and it passed stick check, so you didn't call it illegal. So that's my one thing. I do think it does need to be checked, but get one taken away, it just hurts so much. And even like even for the rest of the season, I'll like count it for the kid. Like, when I look at their stats and I'm like, they had 18 goals, I'll be like, yeah, but they had that one she got taken away for, because I still
No, it
remember
counts.
it still kind of counts. Yeah, we had one recently. So it's still fresh. It's still fresh.
It's a real goal. That's a good point, because I think of one last year where it was like one of our players' first collegiate goal, and she cut behind the left side of the crease. She's a righty. She grabbed it righty and had basically like a goal line extended no angle goal. And it was an amazing first collegiate goal. Stick was illegal, didn't count. I still count it. It's one of my favorite ones I've seen. And then also, a couple years ago, I'm playing and we have our defender clear the ball coast to coast, get her first collegiate goal. Is so freaking exciting. Get taken away because it was raining and it's illegal. And those
They
things.
took it away. They took it away.
Both of them. You have those moments, and again, I count them. And I think, my take is the only reason for me to get rid of it, and I'm talking after goals, is to make our game a little bit quicker and to make the transition from scoring to getting to the draw a little bit quicker. But I think where we could cut out a little bit more time is refs getting better at putting the ball on the stick and being a great facilitator at getting that draw off quicker. Because I think there's about sometimes 30 to 45 seconds of setup, resetting it up, that really drags a little bit. That could just help with efficiency more than the stick check, because I think it's a nice little break. Also, you get to play, hopefully at certain places, you have your goal scoring song come on, and it gives for that time, for that energy. And I think it's a more fun, event live. So I love it.
We need to talk about a lot of those things as the Lax talk about it, because they deserve more time. The Lax goal song, the draw setup, a lot of those things deserve their own like 5-10 minute segments to write those down. Those are important. But yeah, I think as you were saying that, but one thing I'd add is, because I do still think the stick check should occur. The random ones are easy, or sometimes easy. Just pull them at the timeouts, get the kid as they're going off the field, because then maybe, I don't know, it's always just gonna hurt when you get the illegal stick. So I just wish there was
Just
a way, honestly, because like any team I've coached, we've never tried to have an illegal stick. That's my thing. I don't
yeah.
want to have an illegal stick. I don't want the goalie to come back. We know usually we can figure out how to play with whatever stick we're supposed to. So that's why it hurts so much. But people do try to manipulate the sticks, and it has
Yeah, I
happened.
think
So
it's definitely. And I, as a shooter, it was like I never wanted my stick illegal because it didn't make me shoot better. It just,
sure, yeah,
my the ball would drop and it was almost like, just it wasn't the right amount for me and I could tell and I'd immediately go fix it just because I could, I felt a little off. I was like, yeah, my pass a little weird. I don't
yeah,
it's the
yeah.
wand, it's not the person sometimes. Sometimes it is the pocket.
Not the one, it's
Oh
the
gosh.
wizard.
Well, moving on, we had Big Stick Energy. We had something new this week. So Ivy Leagues, they're going to get some competitions in. So Bryce, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, so I read it on Inside Lacrosse today that UPenn, and like we were mentioning earlier, your geographic location this year has mattered more than any other year. So I just assume it's because of their city, their county they're in. And so they announced that their men's and women's teams are both going to play. Like they both had, well, the women's team they said they're both going to play, and the women's team so far has 3 scheduled games I saw. And they're all pretty, within PA. And I just thought it was neat. I felt really good for those athletes and happy for them. But then the questions came. It was like, well, what are the other Aggies going to do? What, do they want to play? Because some don't have all their players. So just interesting. But for the Energy Award, to give them the shout out, definitely cool that at least, and they're not going to lose a year. That was in the article, that it's going to be
Yeah.
under the 30%. So they're not going to contest total, so they're not going to lose a year. So they get. Yeah, I just felt really good for them in that moment reading it. Like, cool, you get to do some things, because we know some teams out there aren't getting to, and just all happy to be back. So that was our award for this week. And
Yeah. And then super excited about that. And I think, again, it's just joyful for anyone that's trying to make it work. And for those that can't, it's like, they're going to come back hopefully stronger and just use this time wisely to have some personal development, professional development, skill development, all that. And then just, briefly talking now, going into Division 2, just had a little write up. I am waiting patiently, and I have been, for Adelphi to play their first game. They've had a bunch of postponements,
oh,
and
they okay,
they haven't
yeah,
played yet. So I think that's also, for Lindenwood, I believe, went into the #1 spot. And I think before that, Adelphi had it, but they just hadn't played. And, Lindenwood's 5-0. So Adelphi, I'll talk about this briefly, but, my Division
is
2,
Lindenwood for real? Is Lindenwood for real? I've
they are for
fallen
real.
in love
Yeah.
with Lindenwood in the past because I love those coaches
Yep.
and what
They
they've
are.
done. They are okay. Did they
They
get
have
another?
so much talent and athleticism.
Yeah.
And I think they've not even come close to their peak. So that's exciting.
Talk
But
about
so
facilities.
yeah, talk about
Yeah.
facilities, talk
Yeah.
about, I think, theirs is built by culture. They've done a heck of a job there. So Lemoyne is hosting Adelphi
Sun,
allegedly this weekend. So that's a huge
Sunday.
matchup.
Yeah.
Huge matchup. So again, it's like, Lemoyne, they started playing this last week and they're 2-0. And it's going to be Adelphi's first game of the season. So that's huge. And then, it's been super exciting to watch Lemoyne play. Indy, they're 6-0. Lindenwood, they're 5-0. Limestone's 5-0. And then I've really enjoyed watching Regis, Grand Valley, McKendree, Florida Southern, Tampa, Rollins, and so many more. And there's a bunch of undefeated teams, just like we're saying, because everyone has played 1 game, 2 game, 3 games, 5, 6. It's all across the board, and it's so early in the season. There's just so much talent, heart, and depth right now in D2. And the other game I'm really looking forward to, it's going to be a midweek matchup between Florida Southern and Tampa. Both programs are 2-0. Tampa has wins versus St. Leo and Rollins. And Florida Southern has had statement wins, all cap statement, over Florida Tech and St. Leo. They have outscored their ranked opponents 34-7.
Wow.
So that is dominant. And I think, with, and I'll let you know. Yeah. Any thoughts on D2 or anything you're excited to see unfold?
Yeah, a lot. When you just talking about that, I jumped on some of their schedules, looking around. The Lemoyne College, do you know what their mascot is?
Dolphins.
The Dolphins. I just love it.
Fins up.
Fins up.
I think is what it is.
Yeah, we've talked about Coach Bevel before on the show. So, and the upstate roots, so always room for them. But you named all the powerhouses, and then with Limestone and Adelphi, Florida Southern's got an Natty. Their coaches from upstate. So D2 is very good. It's fast. It's competitive. It's athletic. It's got a lot of good lacrosse up and down. And it seems to just keep getting stronger every year, especially that Florida conference just seems to be very, very tough. So yeah, big weekend for them. But like you said, some of them played 2 games, and Adelphi hasn't played a single game. And yeah, it's early because we're coming into this
But
COVID
it's
year.
not.
It's the end of March. Yeah, it's really like kind of there's only 1 month left after this, and then May for the playoff teams. So just fascinating season. So that should be a fun weekend for D2.
Yeah, and I would say, obviously Joe Spallina was at the helm of Adelphi for a while, and I feel like back then, and that was pushing 10 years ago now, and previous, I feel like there was 5 really really good teams, and occasionally maybe 7 or 8. And I feel like
Yeah,
now when I'm watching Division 2, there are 5 studly teams where I think a lot of those players could be playing and making an impact at D1. And then there's about 20 solid teams, just so competitive, and it's getting better and better and better. They've added a lot of programs the last couple of years. I think conferences have been getting switched up, changed up, things like that. So it's just really fun to track. And I think there's just a lot of benefits, a lot of great facilities, a lot of great academic schools as well in D2. So I think, it's good to, shine some light on that. And then right into
yeah.
Division 3 and talk about, it's late still, it's almost April. There
Mhm.
just hasn't been a ton of teams playing still. It's been more and more. Like I said last week, I was excited more teams are playing. I think NESCAC's going to be the ones that are competing, are starting. Some have started games, but most of them in April. So it's been kind of a slow roll, but I have had such a fun time. I don't know if I mean it's obvious if you watch the social media with the women's lax world. Ithaca has been really fun for me to watch, and I'll tell you why. They're really freaking good,
Yeah,
and they go hard. They make so many mistakes, and they do not pause for one moment. And I think it's just so fun to watch that. And I'm impressed when coaches are able to foster that type of mentality. I think it's hard. And another very specific reason, and it's also why I like watching ACC. They have a social media team that's really impressive. They have someone doing camera work at practice, filming their coach, filming the players. They got reposted on IW, like IL Women.
on
They
the
have
ankle
a
on the
great
ankle breaker dodge,
broadcast.
on the ankle breaker dodge. Yes, I
Yeah,
was
Ankle Breaker
watching it
Dodge.
there too. I mean, you started posting about their. That's a great point. You started posting about their game live, and that's how I got the content, which I love that you do because I don't even have to jump on a lot of these games. I just see your posts, your updates, and so I knew what was going on. But then 5 days later, I'm looking at it again on my phone. As I'm trying to just get caught up on things, and that's a difference. It's cool. There was an article today about them that I read too on Inside Lacrosse about how their coach, when she saw it, and just raving about Ithaca and why people would want to be in that town, that college. And obviously, we love going to Ithaca. Shout out Lynn, he'll come on the show, our best friend in Ithaca. But yeah, that was a huge win for them and impressive. And but like you said, when I go look at the scores in D3, it's still a lot missing. I don't see a lot. There's usually like 100 scores. Now there's not.
There's a lot missing, and I want to say, and I said this to Big Ten when it's like kind of calling them out and calling them in. You need to look at what teams are getting attention. It is because they're really good. It's also because they care and they have good teams in terms of social media and their marketing, and they're making it fun. And D3 teams, other top 20 teams, you want to start getting more recognition, you want to get your program out there, get an intern, partner with the media programs on your campus, and start
Yeah, have
showing
kids do it.
how much talent you have.
I
No one
know
would
this.
know, it's like no one would know. I think like that's an ankle breaker play. That player is amazing. She's their leading scorer. She could play, D2 or D1. Yeah, she's really impressive. And I think it's like you don't know that unless it's out there, because people might not take the time to watch them over an ACC game.
Right.
So,
right.
Love that. But anyway, for D3, I'm looking forward this weekend watching Mary Washington versus Christopher Newport. And then I'm going to be watching Ithaca versus RIT because of the reasons I just said. I love RIT, and I also really love the broadcast and everything that Ithaca brings. And then I think Division One, there's a lot of good games, but I think the two I'm most excited for is Boston College versus Louisville and Northwestern and Maryland. So it's really the ACC game for me of the weekend, and then the Big Ten for me. I think there's a lot of other games. I don't know if anything spoke out to you.
Well, we're in Big East play now, so I'm kind of looking. We're doing the same thing now. We're playing 2 games a weekend. We got the Hoyas, so huge game for Denver, and then the rest of our league's playing UConn. And UConn's playing Butler, I think. So then that would leave Marquette and Nova. So Big East plays on. Check out Big East, and then the games you said, But to me, and this is my favorite thing about it, you don't even really have to look. Hey, what do I want to watch? You just gotta wait for the weekend and what's gonna break on Twitter. What's gonna pop up on your phone and makes you say, "Wow!" Like you were just talking about. So if the schools are putting investment into that and spending time on the social media, that's what's grabbing people's attention, and that's what makes you want to watch it. So I've been watching that Ithaca highlights from that game the whole week, it feels like, and the other big games. So that's what I'm looking forward to. What's going to break on social media this weekend? What's going to be fun to watch? There'll be highlights. There'll be sick plays. Stony Brook played Hofstra tonight. Can't wait to see those highlights. Yeah, they won
12-8.
Yeah, Battle of Long Island. So that's a huge rivalry. So yeah, can't wait. All of it. Big weekend for Lax.
Big weekend for Lax. Apparently, I can't speak at the end of this.
I choked on my water too. Same time.
Well, what a glorious way to end it. Just choking on our words because we've talked so much. Because there's just me and you. This podcast should have been a lot shorter, but we had a lot to say.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a quick one. But
it's supposed to be a quick one, but I'm not known for my succinctness. I am long-winded and hyperbolic.
Topics we care about. This is why we're doing this show, because we can talk about it. Lax talk about it. And I think, in the coming weeks, I'm going to be giving a lot of shout outs. There is a lot of women doing work in this field, a lot of former players. And I just want to shout out everyone and all the content that's coming out. We initially started this because there really wasn't that much going on. And I think since we've started this, there has been 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 new focuses for women's lacrosse. And I'm excited. It's not because of us, that's for sure, because our production is average. Bare bones.
We're doing everything, but I'm thrilled. This is how it happens. People are excited. They're sharing their passion for it. They're lighting different names, different programs, different opportunities. And the future is bright for women's lacrosse, for lacrosse in general. And Bryce, thank you for being with me. I hope you have an awesome night and good luck this weekend and have a great time coaching.
Thanks for having me. Can't wait to get back on the show next week. We'll have more guests coming up.
Yeah, stay tuned. XOXO.
You tweet it.
I belong to you. I belong to you.